Hey, this is Mr. Passarello or Mr. P. So this is Math 108, and because of how the course is designed, as far as in-person attendance, although it's technically not required to come to class, I definitely suggest doing so. And if you are not able to make it to class, I will have videos like this one to supplement the content. And obviously, in person is the best experience. But in this video, I'm just going to go over briefly section 10.1. You don't have any homework assignment from this section, but I think it's good to know the background information from this before I go into 10.2. And 10.1 is just basically dealing with the Cartesian coordinate system. And so what I put here are 6 points that we're going to plot. And so I have a point A, 1, 3, point B, -2, 4, and so forth. So I'm going to plot those points in a coordinate system, and then I'm also going to state what quadrant they are. And so there are 4 quadrants, but we'll get to that in a second once I first plot the points. So each point is a pair, and it has 2 coordinates. And the coordinates in the way they list the coordinates matters. And so it's always going to be listed with an x coordinate first and then a y coordinate. And you can't switch those. All right, so it's important that you keep in mind that x comes first and then y, and that you cannot switch the coordinates. All right, so let me first do point A. So what I need to do first is create a coordinate system. And let's say that's my coordinate system. Now the horizontal axis is called the x-axis. And the vertical axis is called the y-axis. At the center of the coordinate system, maybe I'll put that in a different color. Let's say green. So the center of the coordinate system right here, that is called the origin. So I'll write that. So the origin is at the center of the coordinate system, and it's the point that has 0 for x and 0 for y. So the coordinates are 0, 0. And then sometimes I like to write above the point x and y just to reinforce that that's the particular values for the letters. So that's that green point in the center. It's called the origin. All right, now I'm going to plot point A. Point A has coordinates 1, 3. So the x component is 1, the y component is 3. So I first start with x, and I start at the origin, and since it's a positive 1, so for x values, you're going to move from the origin to the right if x is positive. All right, and if x is negative, you would move to the left. So it's say move to the left if x is negative. All right, so these are 2 bullet points. And you start in the center. You start at 0, 0. And with y, it's similar. It's just instead of left and right or right and left, you move up and down. So for the y value, you're going to move from the center, or wherever you're at. So I'll do x first, and then I move up or down. So after I move from 0, 0 to whatever x value it is, then I move up or down, and it's going to be moving up if y is positive. And then moving down, if y is negative. All right, so that's always going to be consistent. All right, now let's plot point A. So it's 1, 3. It has a positive 1 for x. So start at the center, 0, 0. I go to the right 1 unit. So that's where I'm at. And now I'm going to take in consideration the y coordinate, which is 3. And since it's positive 3, I move up 3. So let's say go 1, 2, 3. And essentially go right 1, up 3. And that puts you here. And this is point A. All right, so that's how we're going to be doing this. Now point B is negative 2, 4. Right, so at this stage, now you can pause the video. So I recommend pausing it, writing this down, and because I'm going to erase it. All right, so that's the advantage of the video over the in-person lectures, that you can always pause the video and then rewind it or fast forward. All right, so I'm going to erase these bullet points now. Just to have space to write down the next point. All right, so point B, that has coordinates negative 2, 4. Again, the x component is first, negative 2, and then the y component. Because x is negative, so the x coordinate's negative, then I'm going to have to move left 2 units. And because the y coordinate's positive, positive 4, I'm going to move up 4. All right, so let's do that. Again, start at the origin, the green point, 0, 0, move left 2 units. So that's 1, 2. And now I'm going to move up 4 units. So we notice the tick marks. There's 4 tick marks for the vertical axis. So that's 4. And so I'm at negative 2, 4 would be right here. And that's point B. Now in Hawks, you'll be just clicking on the spot where the point is whenever you're doing like 10.2. But I figured the concepts will go over first for this section, and then the concepts for 10.2, and then maybe show you what I mean by the Hawk software as far as just clicking on the right spot. Now, point C is 3, negative 3. And so the x value is 3, the y value is negative 3. Because x is positive 3, I'm going to move right 3. And because the y coordinate's negative, I'm going to move down 3. Okay, so again, start at the origin, the green point, 0, 0. I'm going to move right 3 units. So that's 3 tick marks to the right on the x-axis from the green point. And then I'm going to move down 3 units. 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 tick marks down from the green point. And so this puts me, if I take into consideration both, going right 3, down 3, that puts me here. And that's point C. All right, and now point D. Point D is negative 1, negative 2. Let me double check. Yeah, -1, -2. So the x component is -1, the y component is -2. Because x is negative, I'm going to move left 1. And because y is negative, I'm going to move down 2. All right, so I'm taking my time in this video to explain this so that you don't get because it's important that you know how to plot the points so that in the future for the other sections, I'll go at a faster pace. So left 1, down 2. And I start at the green point 0, 0. I move 1 unit to the left, and then I go down 2 units. And that puts me right here, and that's point D. Okay, so each point so far is in its own quadrant. And the way they call the quadrants, they use Roman numerals, but they would label, and it goes counterclockwise, they would label this quadrant, quadrant 1. And in this quadrant, the coordinates, notice that A, 1, 3, they're both positive. So it's going to always have a positive x and a positive y. Now, quadrant 2 is where point B is, so it goes counterclockwise. So going, I guess, left. Point B has the negative x coordinates -2 and a positive y coordinate 4. So it's a negative x, positive y. And then point D is in quadrant 3. Now point D, that was the coordinates were -1, -2. So they were both negative. So if you're in quadrant 3, it has negative x, negative y. And then last quadrant 4, again, they put it in Roman numerals like this, is 4 in Roman numerals. And point C had a positive x, negative y. So it's plus x, positive x, minus y, or negative y. All right, so maybe that would be helpful if you want to pause the video and write that down. So those are the 4 quadrants. Now the remaining points, point E and F, those don't lie in a quadrant. They lie on an axis. For instance, point E has 0 for its x coordinate, which means you're not going up or sorry, left or right any amount. So let me write that down. So I'll put it over here. So I had 0 and then 2. So the x component is 0, y component is 2. Because it's a 0 for x, you're not going to move left or right any amount. I'm just writing not moving left or right. But the y component is a number that's not 0, it's positive 2. So since it's positive y, you would move up 2. And I'm putting move up 2. So let me write this in better. So that's supposed to be not, the word not moving. All right, so let's plot that point, and I'll put it in a different color from the others just because the other ones were actually in quadrants. This one, oh no, I just picked one, let's say pink. So I'm not going left or right any amount. I'm just going up 2 units. And where that puts me is at this second tick mark, and that's point E. Now, because it's on the y-axis, that means it's called a y-intercept. All right, so the point E, it's on the y-axis at 2. And it's called a y-intercept. The next section, this is important because we will plot lines using intercepts. So this is called a y-intercept. And usually I would just abbreviate that as y-int. And so the y-intercept we would say is 2. All right, we refer to it by the y-coordinate. All right, now the other point, the last point, I'll use a different color for that as well. I'll just use white. So the last point I haven't done is this one, point F, and it's 5, 0. So its x component is 5, y component is 0. Because x is a number that's not 0 and it's positive 5, I'm going to be moving from the center or the origin 5 units to the right. So move right 5 units. And notice it's 0 for the y coordinate. So you're not going to move up or down. Not moving up or down. Okay, so let's plot that. So I'm moving to the right 5 units. So from the green point, go to the right 5 units. Right now, 3 tick marks. I need to add 2 more tick marks to make 5 tick marks. All right, so there's 5 tick marks. And then I'm not going up or down. So you're just put at that spot at 5 on the x-axis. And that's called an x-intercept. And this was point F. All right, so this is the answers for plotting those points. I also put in red the different quadrants, quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then also in red are the signs for the coordinates. So like quadrant 1 has plus x plus y to reiterate that both of the coordinates are positive in quadrant 1. And then quadrant 2 has a negative x, positive y. Quadrant 3 has negative x, negative y. And quadrant 4 has a positive x, negative y. So if you want to pause it, you could write this down. This is basically the answer to the whole problem. And I'm going to add some information now. So I said point F is on the x-axis at 5, and that's called an x-intercept. Okay, so 5, 0. This is an x-intercept, and it's on the x-axis at 5. Again, this is why you can't flip the coordinates or switch them, switch x and y. It's very important that you keep the order. First coordinate is x, second coordinate is y. You wouldn't want to put it at 5 on the y-axis because that would be a y-intercept. All right, and so this is called an x-intercept. And so we would write, and I would abbreviate that as x dash int. And I would say x-intercept is 5. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. I wanted to do this first before I jumped into the section 10.2. So 10.2, you actually have the homework assignment. 10.1, you do not. 10.1 was just to get you familiar with the coordinate system. And I did a quick example, or maybe not quick, but try to take my time explaining it, that we plot these 6 points, A, B, C, D, E, and F. And then I said what quadrant they lied in. So like point A, because it has X and Y are both positive, +1, +3, it lied in quadrant 1. And then point B had a -X, +Y, and that lied in quadrant 2. And then point C, let me scroll down, it is in quadrant 4 because it's +X, -Y. Again, that's the Roman numeral for 4. And point D was in quadrant 3. Both X and Y are negative in quadrant 3. And then E and F do not lie in the quadrants, they're intercepts. And so point E was on the y-axis at 2, and so this was a y-intercept. Point F was on the x-axis at 5, and so that was an x-intercept. All right, so that's the main points. Hopefully this video made sense. Next video, I'm going to go into section 10.2.